So to welcome you both to our Untapped webinar today, thank you both very much for joining us. And the focus of what we wanted to discuss with both of you today was really about finding a new idea, and then really importantly, how to get that new idea to market in a way that the breakthrough comes to life for users and for the market. But before we jump into the discussion, we'd love for you both to introduce yourselves and maybe tell us a little bit about your role at Kimberly-Clark.
Lovely to have the opportunity to chat with you today, Deirdre. Yeah, my name's Nuala Donnelly. I am the R&D Director for the EMEA family care business within Kimberly-Clark.
My name is Federico Pasquini. I'm working with Nuala and I'm leading the product development team in family care at Kimberly-Clark in EMEA.
So you've been lucky to have a product of the year in your pipeline in recent times, Andrex Classic Clean with the 3D Wave. Can you tell us a little bit about the product change and the innovation and where that came from?
Everything started from an unmet consumer need, and specifically it's about that not feeling so clean after going to the loo. We've been working with Untapped, and I have to say we did quite a lot of great co-creation at the beginning of the project together with consumers to come up with the idea and the solution to that unmet problem. And that's about texture and the idea of working on a 3D wave texture. That was the starting point for all the product development journey in a world where actually, toilet paper probably is still a bit undifferentiated and flat. I think we clearly found the opportunity to work on texture and again, to signal the properties and the better cleaning of the product, but also to deliver a real better experience. Fast prototyping, I would say. So it was crucial since the beginning to place into consumer hands some prototypes and learn, check and adjust. I think we've gone through a very robust process, which is why I have to say in the end I was not surprised that we ended up with a winning product.
Not easy to do.
No.
It sounds very easy.
We also did a lot of work, let's call it in our labs, and from a product characterization point of view to understand what were some of the technical measures that needed to change in the product to deliver the cleaning result. So there was on one hand the feedback from consumers, but we also then translated that into key technical success criteria that we knew we had to maintain through the duration of the development cycle. We have a research and development team here in the region, and then we also have a Centre of Excellence on science and technology in North America. And we partnered a lot with that group as well to really understand what are some of the product characteristics, and you can think of it in terms of, I don't know, topography of the paper, etc. How and why should you change that, and in what direction to ultimately give better cleaning. So we certainly tapped into new and different measurement techniques than we might historically have measured on tissue, and partnering with our science and technology teams in North America, and then as a regional team we also did a lot of what I would call design of experiment work to really understand what were all of the variables that you could change, and then how did they correlate with cleaning results.
As you guys reflect back on this project, were there 2 or 3 big challenges that you went through that were specific to seeing this all the way to market that you can share with us?
You're right, it's really difficult to bring innovation to market. I mean, that said, when you start with a really strong consumer idea that's scoring really well with consumers and has, strong appeal internally with our customer teams and our sales teams, that certainly makes it, that journey somewhat easier. Some of our key challenges really through our development program were, while we were really clear on what it takes to deliver a better clean, delivering that technically, we had to work really hard to avoid that gave trade-offs in other important consumer areas. And that's where some of the novelty and some of the invention happened. So you can imagine softness of tissue is something that's really important to people. And so designing for a better clean, we had to avoid that it came at the expense of a trade-off of another really important area. Executing with excellence, so making sure that the product intent gets delivered the whole way through the development cycle and we don't lose sight of what really matters. And through the development cycle and through the scale-up cycle, we're clear on what needs to be different with this product versus its prior product.
Reflecting on remote work and the challenge of that, do you guys feel remote work affects this type of technical translation from finding the idea, hothousing your prototyping, testing with consumers all the way through, thinking of that in a remote lens versus a more joined up face-to-face lens? Do you have a reflection on kind of 2 years later on which parts really need to be face-to-face and which parts can be a bit more remote?
We started before COVID and actually we implemented during COVID. My reflection is I think there's been a lot of value of in terms of running the early stages and the consumer co-creation work and the team doing brainstorming and ideation sessions face to face. I think we would have probably had some more challenges if we had been in a situation where that had to be done remotely. I have to say, not easy, but we did manage to navigate the COVID situation during the trials and startup phase, because that was in the middle of COVID. Like I said, definitely not easy, as you can imagine, because we were limited in terms of travel and everything. But I have to say the team did a great job in terms of partnering with the teams in the mill, and we did manage to travel somehow. I think that was challenging, but I have to say we did manage to go through that successfully.
Plus, it's a highly sensory product, right? A tissue. It's something that you touch, and from once you touch it, kind of whether you like it or not. So, that's why being able to physically touch the product and feel samples as they come off the manufacturing line is part of being able to judge your success.
Number one is starting from consumers, with consumers, being consumer-centric. We'll do that again. I'm sure there's way to improve that, but I think that's been also so far on this project one of the key factors of success. So that's one. Together with, like I mentioned earlier, fast prototyping and having the opportunity to place into consumers' hands prototypes, early stage prototypes, more evolved prototypes. But I think that's been a crucial part of our learning and development journey. The other one again, and Nuala alluded to that, so being very clear on hard points, soft points, and staying true to the original brief and design intent. And last but not the least, execution with excellence. We talked about technical execution. The other thing for me is also the in-market execution, and I have to say I'm proud about how we in R&D have supported the marketing teams to bring to life the benefits of the product with product demos, benefit visualization, and I think we did a great job.
A lot of our clients, again, they think R&D is kind of at the front end, at the invention stage, and then kind of when you launch the product, it becomes a completely commercial transfer. You guys clearly were involved right through with the demos and the visualizations as well. Any advice for technical teams and commercial teams in that kind of collaboration space?
We've been working on all of these aspects since the beginning, and in close partnership with our marketing teams. So I think we've been together on the journey. I think we did a good job in terms of, since the beginning, also showing the possible benefits of working together on things that were not just product, but again also demos and claims, benefit visualization. And I think probably given that we've been together on this journey and building trust throughout the journey, I don't think it's been a big challenge in the end. To ensure that also R&D was involved in the latest stages and providing the marketing teams with the ammunition that they needed.
My advice to others would be, find a way of selling your product story or making your product story engaging, intuitive, and simple, not overly technical, and bring that to the marketing and communications teams as a tool that they can use. Because I do think sometimes in organizations that those that can be a very siloed activity. But I think if you're proactive and you go and say, hey, here's how I would describe the product to my mum or my sister or whatever, I think then it can be a great partnership. I think in the case of this example, like Andrex with 3D Wave, I think it was easier because that idea was so powerful and so intuitive. I've been on other projects where the core idea or the core reason to believe is less powerful and less intuitive, and that's where you feel like you need to add extra layers to the story. So perhaps we were a little fortunate in this case that we had that big idea. But I guess the advice is even if you don't try and keep it to that simple one big idea rather than adding in the multiple layers. 3D Wave is also, there's no language barrier, so like you didn't have the Italian saying, well, what do you mean by 3D, right? It's a universal thing, which I think is probably sometimes, again, when I've seen other innovations that even might have been strong, on stain repellency or whatever, it's like some of those words just don't translate into other languages. So I guess it was very fortuitous, but 3D was universal. The whole team were in it from the beginning. So this wasn't a product or technology push. The whole team, so it was a multifunctional team, the design team, the marketing team, the market research team, the R&D team, all came together and in that consumer learning phase and in the ideation phase. So I think everybody felt like they owned it from the start. Again, I've seen other projects where, sometimes it feels like it's being pushed from, one part of the team or the other. But I think getting everybody together in that early co-creation, I think helps everybody feel like they own it from beginning to end.
Looking back, it's I think it's good that we set the bar high since the beginning, which I think I've seen that making the team uncomfortable during some of the stages of the product development, for example. But I think it was good to have that clear view in terms of what was our end goal, and I think we were working towards that, as a team, and I think we made it. Congratulations.
A good note to finish on. Thank you both for squeezing us in on a Friday. I'm sure it's been another busy week and you're ready for a nice weekend. Thank you.
Cool. Cheers, Deirdre.
Thank
you. Bye.
Bye.